All right, so this is the chapter 4 in grammar, last grammar test of your career perhaps, review, okay? Depending on what you do in college, you may not have to have any more grammar, ever. Probably not, actually. The only thing, Nathaniel's taken criminal justice as his major, and he did have to have 3 English classes. 2 of them were covered here. Grammar and writing, he does have to take, I think it's next semester, he's going to go ahead and get it out of the way, a college literature class. Some majors, though, only require 2 Englishes, depending on what you go into, okay? So it's a decent possibility that you would not have to take any English beyond the dual credit here, okay? So chapter 4, avoiding sentence errors, okay? First section, I think you will find very, very simple. It is recognizing fragments and run-ons. Okay, they're going to give you 10 groups of words, and it tells you right out of the box that 5 out of 10 of these are well-written sentences, okay? And then the other 5 are either fragments or run-ons. All right, and so all you have to do is write S for sentence, F for fragment, or RO for run-on. Sorry guys, oh here we go, okay. I usually pick out one. I don't think any of these will be, should not be, if you sit and think about it at all, hard for any of you, okay, if you're watching from home. But just take your time on this section. It should come, but I'll pick. This one isn't hard either. I don't think. Well, shouldn't be. Okay. Everybody knows this isn't a fragment, right? The only question that might come into anybody's mind is the sentence written correctly? Is it written well? Is it the way a sentence should look? Or is it indeed a run-on? Okay? Hold on. I appreciate you. I'll give you opportunity. Jay, what do we got here? We got, is it a well-written sentence or is this a run-on?
I think it's a run-on. Yeah.
Why? Where should we have something besides what we have? Where does it break? Where do the 2 ideas break?
The in addition.
Good. So you could, and you don't have to correct these. Actually, you do have to correct these. Woo-woo. Yeah, I'm in. You do have to correct these in the next section. This one, all you would have to do if you chose to do it that way is just add a little dot, write it out, and put a semicolon here. Okay? Because this is not, I mean, there's no conjunction here. This is a comma splice without the semicolon if you just leave the comma there. Okay? So that you would label run-on. Okay? And then there'll be 9 others, 5 of which, like I said, will be good sentences, and the other 4 beyond this one will either be a fragment or a run-on. Okay? All right, so then you will, 4.1 continues on the test. And as I just said, the 5 out of 10 from above that are fragments or run-ons, you will have to correct them into well-written sentences. Guys, we waited a few minutes, but I just didn't want to wait because I was afraid we'd run out of time. I don't think we will, but we just started about 3 or 4 minutes ago. Okay. All right, so just really quick recap. The first 10 on the test, they're gonna give you 10 groups of words, and 5 of them will be well-written sentences. The other 5 will either be a fragment or a run-on. You're going to label them as such, as this is example of one on the test. He plays the clarinet, and I fixed this, okay, but on the test it says comma, in addition, comma. He can sing. That, of course, would be a run-on, because without a semicolon or a comma and a coordinated conjunction here, you've got a run-on. It's a comma splice. So I just made it into a semicolon. That's the easy fix. There, you could have put period, capital I, or you could have reworded it if you wanted to with a comma and a conjunction. And then the next section on the test, you do need to be careful. Not that this is hard in any way, shape, or form. I fully expect all of you to do well on this, but you do need to take care because based on the 5 that you say are not okay up here, you have to rewrite them in the next section. So if you mess up and get the wrong one up here, then that's going to throw you off down here automatically. Okay? All right, then the next section is based on 4.2 in the chapter, and this is recognizing misplaced and dangling modifiers. All right, and they tell you again right out of the box, which I think is quite helpful. 5 out of 10 of the sentences are correct. Okay, the other 5 out of 10 have either a misplaced or dangling modifier. Okay, now before we go any further, let's talk about this just for a second. I don't know that I'm going to write anything up here, but let's just do a reminder so that if you need to write something down as we talk about it, or at least you're refreshed in your mind. There's a difference between these. If a modifier like a prepositional phrase, or more likely a participial phrase, is misplaced, what does that mean?
It's just not correct.
It's not in the, go, thank you. And ideally, Jayla, where, if you have a participial phrase, and it's a participle, so it's describing a noun or a pronoun, usually a noun, because it's participles or adjectives, where in relation to the word it describes should that participial phrase be? As close to it as possible. If you can get it right before it or right after the word it describes and the sentence flows, then that's where it should be. Okay? So that would be a misplaced modifier. They don't have to be participial phrases, could be prepositional, but more often than not, these are, it is a misplaced modifier is very often a participial phrase. Okay? Now, this is different. Okay? This, I think, is a little tougher because what this, a dangling modifier describes is often assumed. Okay? And in our everyday talking to our friends and our family, meh. If the person knows what you're saying, then that's okay, I guess. Okay? But in writing, remember, that's why it's so important to be careful with your writing. Okay? They don't have your facial expressions. They don't have your voice intonation. They don't have you to explain what you mean if they don't understand it, right? So a dangling modifier means that the thing there that it's supposed to describe, the word, the noun or pronoun, it's not even there, okay? So on these, you have to recognize that the thing that it's supposed to describe is not even there, usually a noun or pronoun. And then in the next section, we're going to talk about you would have to fix that, ideally, okay, and give it a doer, which means you're going to have to add at least a word or two. You may need to reword to make it sound wonderful, but you're going to have to at least add a word or two, okay? So there are 10 of those. Let me see which one I want to do with y'all.
Are we going to have to rewrite those ones too?
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, let's see here, chapter 4. Let's see. Did I circle one on the test? You would think after all this time I have. Usually I circle one of the ones that I think is more difficult, but for whatever reason I did not on this test. Okay. Just 1 second, because I'm trying to decide between one of two. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple of these with you. Here's one of the ones, and usually they're phrases, but I think this one will be pretty easy, but if you're looking for a phrase, it might throw you off. Because this is just a one-worder, and most of the ones that we practiced, if not all in the book, were actually phrases. And then we'll do one with a phrase. So you'll actually have 2 of the 5 that are not right, you'll have that you can memorize if you so choose. Okay, I just told you, this is a one-word modifier that's misplaced. And this one's so easy to fix because it's just one word. Okay, those are easier to fix sometimes than the ones with phrases. Stephen, what's the problem and what are we going to do with it? And this one, by the way, if you were going to, I'm sorry, I asked you a question, don't give you a chance to answer. I will in just a second. This one, by the way, is it misplaced or dangling, Stephen? It's misplaced. Because the thing that this one word that's misplaced is actually, that it describes is actually there. Okay? It's just in the wrong place. It's just next to the wrong noun / pronoun. In this case, it's a pronoun, okay? Because I'm not crying. I mean, I could be. I do, probably more, certainly more than the average man, and perhaps more than the average woman sometimes, although I don't know. We guys like to cry. Sometimes, and believe me, it's good.
Maybe you have a fear of babies.
Well,
Yeah.
perhaps, you could, right? You could, but probably not. Probably is, this should say what?
Held the crying baby.
Yes, that one word should be moved in front of baby. Okay? All right, now on the test tomorrow, and this is good for y'all to hear, because I may not remember to put it in the instructions for tomorrow. Those of you that are doing this online, if Austin and Zach, I do want these all written out. Okay, I'm gonna just copy this test for the people that are home. Hopefully Austin will be able to be back tomorrow with us. Zach won't be here tomorrow. I'm gonna take pictures of the test and put it on there, okay? I will want these written out, okay? And you'll have time, because the test isn't that long. So, because on this one, it's easy for me to tell what you're doing, and it's easy to just move it, I get that. But a lot of these are gonna involve moving something longer, or we'll see in a few minutes, there are a couple of these that you have to write your own sentences. So, I prefer you just write them out, okay? All right, let's do one more. With an actual phrase that's misplaced. Okay. Yes, definitely this one, because I've seen this one messed up before, more so than some of the others, I think, so it's probably harder for at least some people. Can't see me because I'm blocking it. It says, seeing bright flashes of light, comma, the accident reached our awareness, period. Seeing bright flashes of light, comma, the accident reached our awareness, period. Okay? So, I'll just tell you right out. Okay, this one is not okay. All right? Someone besides Jayla or Stephen, please raise your hand and tell me if this is misplaced or dangling, and then how would you fix it? I'll give you a second. Is it misplaced or dangling? Is the modifier misplaced or dangling? And by the way, the modifier, often, if it's the beginning and it's participial phrase, it's gonna be followed by a comma. Okay, this is your modifier. It's out of place. Well, it's wrong. It's not out of place, okay? So what would you do? I just kind of gave you the answer to the first one. In fact, I did. It's dangling, okay? There is no noun or pronoun that this describes. And wait a minute, some people might say, well, it describes our. We were the ones seeing. Our isn't a noun or a pronoun. Well, it's a pronoun, but it's not acting like a pronoun. It's acting like an adjective, right? Adjectives have to describe concrete nouns and pronouns. So this is dangling. There's no word there that this seeing bright flashes of light describes. So how would we fix this? We'd have to reword it. Another good reason to make y'all write these out. To make sure, because if you write them out and it's dangling, and you try to fix it by being lazy and just adding a couple words, you're likely to still not get it right. Okay, so it's just better to write them out. How could we fix it? Don't be afraid. This is a safe place. Y'all love me. I love you. You know I'm not going to, nobody in here is going to go, no. Go ahead, Jayla, for sake of time. What would you do?
Seeing bright flashes of light, I was aware of.
Good. Seeing bright flashes of light, so you can leave that. But near it, because this is a participial phrase and it's a modifier, you need to put who was seeing the bright flashes of light. So you could say, my family and I, we, and again, I understand we or I, which she said, which works perfectly here. If you're writing this in context, you can't say, well, depending on whether you could say I. If you're writing a short story, you could. But something like we would need, especially would need a nearby antecedent. But this is just sentence by sentence. I'm not worried about that here, okay? But the point here is this has to have something near it, a noun or pronoun that it describes, as close as possible to it. In this case, it's right next to it, which is great. And she said I was made aware, which is fine because, I mean, it's okay. I'm gonna make it just a little better, Jayla, but you did well. And that wouldn't be wrong on the test, but was made is passive,
Yeah, I was
which
made
ideal,
aware.
yeah, she's like, yep, I was, yeah, after I said it, good. I became aware of the accident.
Is that what you said? What? Is that what you said? I said I wasn't.
Well, I wrote it down wrong, but
Okay. Questions on that? Do you see why this, I just want to make sure you understand why this is what we call dangling. Is there anybody that's still doesn't get that? Okay, this cannot describe our. First of all, it's a little far away, but even if it weren't, our is acting as an adjective. Adjectives should describe nouns, concrete nouns or pronouns. Okay, all right, that's about the first half-ish of the test. And just, I didn't write it for you, but this I told you that 4.2 continued, which would be the fourth section of the test, is doing this, okay? You're choosing the 5 that are up here that are wrong, misplaced or dangling. Again, be careful, because then whatever 5 you choose are the 5 that you rewrite. So you want to make sure that you get these right as much as possible so you don't miss one down here just because you chose the wrong one. Okay? Yes?
I took a picture of the board before you were sitting.
Please take a picture of the board. There's also, not that you want to go through it, there'll probably be a 30-minute video later on YouTube because I'm taping this for Zach and Austin. And anybody else that wants to come back and do this. Yeah. Long videos get on my nerves, like instructional videos like this. I mean, sometimes they have to be long, but if there's 15 minutes worth of meat in it, and I'm trying to make it all meat as much as I can, and you need the 15 minutes worth of meat, but there's 20 minutes of fluff. Also, if there's just one thing when you're going through your notes tonight that you're not sure about, personally, I don't want to spend 30 minutes trying to go through the video and find that, right? So, you guys should be good. Hopefully, Zach and Austin watch this and take notes, please, okay? I'm trying to be as thorough as possible. Okay, the next part is 4.3. which is correcting faulty parallelism. Yes, I'm feeling in a flourish today with the cursive. Sorry if it makes it a little hard to read. I'm just feeling all that way. Okay. They're going to give you 3 sentences with non-parallel structures. And they'll all be, it's just 3. It's not you choose 3 out of these that are, and you have to choose which ones are right. It will tell you there are 3, all 3 of them have non-parallel structures. Okay? And remember, when we talk about parallelism, it could be 2 items, it can be 2 items that you want to make as parallel as possible. 2 prepositional phrases, 2 verbs. But generally, and let me look on here. Okay, the first one is just 2. The second one's 2. Okay. The last one I'm not going to do with you because the last one is 3. And I think when you see 3, it's easier to go, oh, because there are 2 that are alike and there's 1 that's different, right? Let me choose which one of these I prefer rather than. Okay, okay. Here's the one we want to do. Here's one of the 3. Okay, that is, I don't know why I'm numbering it because I'm only going to do 1, and it's not the first one actually on here. Oh, sorry, not then. Sorry. Hopefully you got a erasable pen or a pencil. She was more creative when she was unhappy. And I'm going to move because I'm aware that this far right part is not visible on the video. When she was unhappy, then and I'm just going to tell you, and I don't think this will be a problem for either of our guys that are watching, and it won't be a problem for some of you all in here, including Stephen, I don't think. But 1 or 2 of us, and you can see I do too, like to write largely. And I'm not saying sloppily, I'm saying largely, because one person I can think of right off writes very largely, but it's very pretty writing, okay? You don't have a lot of room on here. So you're going to have to, if you know you write big, or even medium size maybe, you're going to have to bring it down a little bit. Okay, now please don't write so small that I can't read it. Okay, and I have to get out my reading glasses, which I do for the really tiny print on the internet now, right, at the bottom of it. But, okay, so just that's just a heads up, okay? Because this is pretty long, and probably, to make this sound the best we can, we're going to add a couple words to it and make it even longer. And they give you like 1 line. And no, I don't want you getting out your own paper because, I mean, there are so many sections with writing, I would probably have trouble keeping up with where you were on the extra paper. Okay. All right. How we going to fix it? April, you want to help us with this one? How would we make, okay, she was more creative when she was unhappy. And here are the 2 structures from here on. When she was unhappy, then in a good mood. I can add 3 words here. This is what we call an elliptical adverb clause. Okay? Those than and as clauses, we did that. We had to practice those a couple chapters back. Than and as at the end, and they leave out either a subject, at least a subject, sometimes a subject and a helping verb, sometimes a subject and a main verb, but usually it's a subject and a helping verb. But it's assumed because it should, you know, when you're comparing and you have the first one, they think, you know, everybody understands what that means. You got me, or? Good, perfect. I'm not going to write, y'all will write it out tomorrow. Okay, the sentence 1 time, but I'm not going to write this all out twice. Okay, but that's what you would need to add there, because to make it, then we have when she was unhappy, when was she more creative? When she was unhappy, here's our subordinating conjunction for our two dependent clauses that's joining them. Okay? Than when she was in a good mood. And I just heard Ariel say, I feel that way about poetry. That's honestly, if you look historically, and you guys probably know this if you're any fan of poetry at all, or if you've read a whole lot much, very often poets, this is true of poets, okay? Maybe short stories or novels. If I think short stories and I think this, I think Edgar Allan Poe. The man had, if you don't know, had an extremely tragic life. He was probably unhappy a lot of the time. And understandably so, unless he knew the Lord, which I don't think there's evidence that he did. He wasn't a terrible man, but he didn't know the Lord. He lived a tragic life, very tragic life. So I could see this. But we've got two dependent adverbial clauses now versus an adverbial clause and a prepositional phrase. Becomes much more parallel, sounds much better, reads much better. Yes, ma'am? You may. Okay. Correcting faulty parallelism, okay? That's that. Next, we've got two more sections, guys. Okay, writing, this is original sentences, okay? These are the only two original ones that you have to come up with. Writing sentences with parallel structures. Take a while to stick, y'all. That's why we're not going to get a lot. But I'm glad it's snowing rather than icing. Of course, I'm hearing that may change for Wednesday's forecast. But
It's supposed to snow, I don't know, it's supposed to snow for 2 hours here, and then it's supposed to go back to rain.
okay.
And then it's gonna go back to snow, right, Wednesday or today?
No, today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so snow and then go back to rain because it's going to warm up later today. But the one on Wednesday, whenever it starts, and I'm hearing Wednesday morning as of now, is when it'll start. It's either supposed to be, I believe, mainly snow / junk that you don't want falling from the sky, sleet or freezing rain. Okay, it could start out as rain, but I think it's, and we're going to get more on Wednesday. I would like to say, I think probably Wednesday. I look for us to be
I think
on Wednesday.
we'll call it for 3 to 6 inches or something.
They were saying 3 to 6. The last one I saw this morning on VBA said 3 to 5. But then they made the stipulation that if you live south of 460, which, I mean, 460 runs right here, so I don't know how I don't understand that. I understand east and west of like 77. That makes sense to me, because the road runs and you're east or west. I don't really understand the terminology, and maybe I'm just stupid, of south of this road, you know what I'm saying? Because it runs right by all of us.
Probably Beeson towards Flat Top.
Okay, maybe. But they said south of 460 would get more of the rain, snow, junk. And north of 460, whatever they're calling north of 460, would get just about all snow. But anyway, so yeah, probably Wednesday we'll be out. We'll be on LMS. Hopefully that's the only day. 2 parallel noun clauses, and then 3 parallel verbs. Now,
Wait, what are we doing with those things? We're writing
you're writing original sentences. This should not be difficult, okay? The only thing I would caution on the 3 parallel verbs is make sure 2 things. Number 1, if you use a helping verb with 1, you use a helping verb with all 3. If you don't with 1, you don't with all 3. The other thing, I got it. The other thing I would caution with the 3 parallel verbs is if you start them, if one's in present, then probably the other 2 should be in present too. In fact, I would say for parallel's sake, they should be. Sometimes most of the time you want to stay in the same tense, but occasionally it makes sense to go from present to future. Occasionally, okay? But for parallelism, we want them all in the same tense. If they have helping verbs, we want them to all have helping verbs, or if not, we don't want any of them to have helping verbs, okay? You want them to look as close as possible to the same. I'm not doing this for you. Now, if you do your own and you want to make sure it's right, and you come in the morning and say, Miss Shoemate, is this right? So I can memorize it, I'll tell you yes or no, okay? But I'm not doing this one for you, because this shouldn't be difficult. This one, I'm going to do one with you And if you want to write it down and memorize it, you're welcome to. Because I'll tell you right now, a whole lot of people in the past have missed this. Okay? If you understand it, it's not terribly difficult, but still, you're having to come up with your own. Okay? So it's not the easiest thing in the world. Ariel, do you have a question? I thought I saw a hand up.
If we could memorize them, but you answered. my
Yeah,
question,
yeah,
so
okay,
I understand.
okay, yeah. This one is, it's gotta be original, but yes, you may memorize it,
So we
okay?
can't just write the one that you're writing on the board
For now, yes, I'm not giving you this one,
Oh, okay, okay.
not doing it. I'm telling you what you gotta do. Okay, that should help, but I'm not gonna give you that one, okay? 2 parallel noun clauses. Let's do this.